What's going on, everybody? This is Afro Think Tank. Now, you know, on my channel, you always gonna learn something in my videos. Even when I'm talking shit, you'll learn something. Even if you don't like me, you'll learn something, right? While talking shit. Back at me after I finish talking shit to you, right? But today, we're gonna learn something about the true history and relationship between African people who were brought over here during the transatlantic slave trade and the Native Americans. And more specifically, the Cherokee, which one of the five great nations that they had here in Northern America when the Europeans came and colonized the place. Now, the history between African people and Native Americans is complicated. We must understand that when you say Native American, you can't lump them all up in one group. And even when you talk about Native American tribes, you have to speak about those tribes as if they're nations that have little small nations within them, sub-nations. Right? Just like in Africa, you have like the Yoruba, right? The Yoruba is a language speaking African group, but there are subgroups of Yoruba that have different names, right? It's very complex and complicated. It's not simple at all, right? So when the Africans were brought over here brought to the Americas during the transatlantic slave trade, there were some elements of the Cherokee who wanted to be like the European, who decided that they were going to be European in order to survive the European, right? If you can't beat them, join them type of situation, right? Or they were enthralled with the European trappings. The same way there were some African kings and chiefs who were enthralled with European trappings, right? And they decided to work with the invader, right? For their own greed. There were Cherokees who did exactly the same thing in the Americas. And just like in Africa, there were tribes fighting each other, right? And when you think of tribes, you must think of nations, right? Think of large groups of people that have their own distinct civilizations and distinct governing systems and distinct territories, right? Even if they have this similar names because of their subgroup, right? Now, when the European and certain subgroups of Native Americans, intermingled with each other, some of the Cherokees decided they wanted to participate in slavery. And they enslaved Africans. So the Cherokee participated in the enslavement of Africans the same way the Europeans have. And in some cases, right, which is historically noted, historically documented, that the Native Americans were even crueler, right? I.e. certain Cherokee groups were even crueler to Africans than the Europeans. As you know, when you're copying somebody and it's not really your thing, usually you overdo it, right? I'm gonna give you a good example that has nothing to do with what we're talking about. Y'all know how lesbian women who are more masculine, you know how they act extra masculine, right? To compensate for them not really being a man. Or how a gay man who's more feminine, they'll act extra feminine so they, to compensate for them not actually being a female. Or like a white person who kind of like wants to act black, and they'll try to act extra black to compensate for them not being black. You know what I'm saying? Or you'll have a black person who's acting white, and they'll act extra white, usually extra racist and xenophobic, to make up for the fact that they're not actually white, right? So that same thing happens in the Native American community, right? So it's a very complex situation where we had some Cherokees who capitulated and wanted to be slave owners, and they owned and they beat and they abused and they killed and they raped Africans, right? That's where the majority of our interactions was on the East Coast with the Cherokee. Then you had the other Native Americans, right, who were enemies of the Cherokee, or you had other Cherokee subgroups who were enemies of other Cherokee subgroups, right, who fought against the white person and freed the Africans, and then the Africans and the Native Americans went and they communed together and became a group, right? Then you had the ones that Africans that ran away, and then they got accepted into the Native American tribes as they were running. Keep in mind, when Africans were running away from the white man, we were running away into a wilderness we knew nothing about because it wasn't our land. Therefore, we were just in the dark. So the only people that could help us, or the people that could take advantage of us, were the Native Americans. So yes, the history is complicated, and we weren't always the victims all the time. They were Native American. The reason why the Native Americans got ultimately defeated is because the Buffalo Soldiers were used by the white man to destroy the Native Americans. The Spaniards also brought African Moors, warriors, and sailors on the West Coast, and used African warriors to destroy Native Americans. So, I mean, we all got some, between Native Americans and Africans, we got some complicated history. Some of us being bad guys, some of us being victims. It's just what it is, victim and victimizers. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put this video here where this African American lady is talking about the history of Africans and Cherokee Native Indians in all of its glorious detail. Also, I understand now we have these pretendians and FBA who they run around and they make all this pseudo history, and because of that, the true Africans mixed Native Americans, or the true Africans who culturally are are Cherokee, right? Ethnically are Cherokee, they get blindsided and they don't get seen because we have all these African people who hate themselves and they want to pretend to be something that they're not, but they don't even know their history. You see, a true black Native American knows their history. A true black Native American knows how to speak the Native American language that their ancestors were either forced or they adopted. There's a difference. And we need to highlight those black people who are true Native Americans because they're getting mixed up with this FBA pretending and stuff, and that's not fair. All right? So anyway, without further ado, this is Afro Think Tank. Learn something, teach something. I'm out.
Welcome to Cherokee National History Museum.
My name is Melissa Payne. I'm the community liaison for Cherokee Nation Freedman descendants. Cherokee Freedmen and their descendants became a part of the tribe in 1866. They signed a treaty with the federal government saying that they would give full rights and citizenship to those individuals that were once enslaved by the Cherokee Nation. Individuals that were enslaved by Cherokee Nation, all they knew was the Cherokee way. So they're being in these environments with the culture of Cherokee Nation, learning the way they spoke the language. They even were interpreters at some point. They existed before the removal, during the removal, and after the removal. And so they were an extremely vital to the Cherokee Nation and rebuilding the nation once we got over into Oklahoma. And so today we've come a long way, but due to all of the rejection, you've got a lot of trauma that occurred within those individuals of Freedman descent. And the Cherokee Nation is doing such a phenomenal job trying to embrace, or they are embracing, the Cherokee Freedman descendants fully. And we're trying to shed light on those, the things that did occur, acknowledge the dark chapters in Cherokee Nation, and actually connect with one another.
This exhibit was very moving. You'll see different things that our ancestors endured, and you'll notice that some were happy, some were great, and then you'll see some where they were enslaved. You can see where they sold some of the individuals. I mean, it goes from all types of emotions, but the experience was amazing, and I was truly grateful to be a part of it.
We sent out flyers to all over to ask for Cherokee citizens, Freedman descent, to share their stories. And so this exhibit is giving the opportunity for our ancestors' voices to be heard through it. And so it's an amazing exhibit, and it is now in Veneta at the Anna Mitchell Cultural Welcome Center. We've got a report that Chief accumulated a task force. We have a task force that got put together to look at the impact of slavery upon the Cherokee Nation in the 19th century. And so this report is now released, and so you can access it as well. And it just shares a lot of information expressing different things that occurred and how slavery impacted the Cherokee Nation's economy. We have an amazing chief in office right now. Chief Chuck Hoskin Jr. has embraced doing what's right. I mean, in general, and he's just moved forward with, equality within the Cherokee Nation. It's extremely important, and so he's implemented different things that we have to, implement within the tribe, and I'm grateful for that. And equality is important. He speaks boldly about the history of the Cherokee Nation, and not to discredit them or make them feel bad, but the only way you can heal as a nation is by confronting those dark chapters so that they're not repeated again, and embracing one another and moving forward. It's the step of heal. It's a step towards healing within the nation. So we're truly grateful to have Chief Hoskin in office and making these great stands on what's right.
I was born and raised in Fort Gibson, Oklahoma, and moved to Muskogee probably around my teenage years, and from then on, between the both.
Well, we're in the Cherokee National History Museum in downtown Tahlequah, our historic Capitol building. Such a beautiful space, and we are taking a look at something that I think is really powerful, which is the Freedman exhibit here at our History Museum.
So the Cherokee Freedman History Project began in early 2021. It was an effort by Chief Hoskin to elevate the voice of Cherokee Freedmen within our Cherokee community, tell the stories that have long not been told. And so this project clearly established the fact that this project would be led by a group of Cherokee Freedmen community advisors.
Oh, I must say I was amazed. Working on this project during Zoom and seeing the things that was going to come about was pretty amazing, but when you come inside and you actually see the exhibit, you're truly touched. So it moved me. You would have to come and look and see for yourself, but it moves you.
Now, Cherokee history is full of rich moments, full of great triumph, full of Cherokee people acting collectively to overcome tragedy, work through trauma, and build a great nation. Recognizing that's important and telling that story is important, but we have to tell the whole of the story. We have to recognize that there were times that we imposed trauma on others, and I'm talking specifically and plainly about the enslavement of other human beings.
I believe it's great to have that history put out there and us to be able to get understanding and for others to get understanding. Although it's a touchy subject, although it's hard for people that ancestors or descendants were a part of it in both ways, but history is important. That way we won't repeat it, you know?
And I think any nation is a stronger nation if they tell the whole of their story, the tragedy, the triumph, and the chapters that are dark and difficult.
To me, as I always knew I belonged, being a Cherokee citizen makes me proud. I can smile and say I am Cherokee.
If there's any nation that ought to be leading on the subject of civil rights, of human rights, of equality, well, it ought to be the Cherokee Nation. We are a nation that keeps its promise. And that's a great nation. Cherokee Nation is a great nation.
I'm an African American with Cherokee heritage. My great-grandmother, Phyllis Thompson Pettit, was a slave of the Cherokees.
It's a little-known chapter in American history. The Cherokees were one of 5 Indian tribes whose members owned slaves.
So what were those slaves doing for the Cherokee Nation?
They were agricultural laborers. They were also individuals who worked as domestic slaves.
But in 1866, the Cherokees freed their slaves. They signed a treaty guaranteeing that all freedmen and their descendants would, quote, have all the rights of native Cherokees. Today, that treaty is at the center of a controversy involving nearly 3,000 African Americans. On August 22nd, Cherokee Nation kicked them out of the tribe.
The Treaty of 1866 did not give citizenship to the freedmen nor their descendants.
Diane Hammonds is the Attorney General for Cherokee Nation.
The heart of the issue is whether or not an Indian tribe can determine who is eligible to be a member of that tribe.
In 2007, Cherokee Nation passed a law requiring proof of Indian blood to be a member. The proof is based on a record that was created a century ago called the Dawes Rolls. The freedmen say the Dawes Rolls are wrong because they were based on how you looked.
taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Before you come asking Mr. Muhammad, does he teach hate, you should ask yourself, who taught you to hate being what God gave you?
Free Sudan! Boycott diamonds and gold! Free Sudan! Boycott diamonds and gold! We most definitely cannot forget about the people of Sudan!
Thanks for watching Afro Think Tank. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And follow me on Substack and Patreon for more content. Remember, it's Pan-Africanism or nothing.